Welcome back to another episode of Good Times Ahead. I'm your co-host, Nick Eustace. This is my boy, Tanner Thompson. And today we have two special guests with us. Probably going to be the most informative episode that we've ever had. Instead of the two typical idiots, Tanner and I ranting on about nothing, we have the dynamic mother-daughter duo and real estate experts, Ana Santos and Sara Branco. Thank you for coming on. Do you just want to introduce yourselves and go into who you are? And
sure.
Yeah, we can go from there.
Want me to go first? Mm-hmm. All right. So I'm Ana Santos. I've been a realtor for about going into my 12th year in the business with Harvey Kalles. We are one of the top producers. Our team is one of the top producers at Harvey Kalles. I started late in the game in the business. My background is actually social work, if you can believe it. Had a gift shop, was a banker, did professional photography, managed my ex-husband's dental practice for 13 years, and then at the age of, I won't tell you what age, needed to change careers, and I ended up in real estate, and I've loved every minute since.
How did you end up in real estate? Like, how did you come to that decision?
So I always wanted to go into interior design. I love decorating. But being the daughter of immigrant parents, I felt like I had to go to university and get a real job. So I didn't think interior design school was an option. So I went into university with the idea of becoming an accountant. That quickly disappeared, that idea, once I was in first year university. Hated it in theory. I mean, it's funny because I've always owned my own business and run a business, but I hated it in university. And then I kind of gravitated to psychology. First year psychology, hated it, but then started taking more courses and loved it and ended up in social work. But again, loved it in school, but once you start working in it, super stressful and didn't like it. So when it was time to change careers, my dad was a builder for about 40 years, and I grew up in the business. And my sister became an interior designer. And so kind of seemed like the next step. I've always loved homes and decorating them, and I'd built a home of my own. So decided to and I always loved being around people, did not like being at a desk.
No, neither do I.
No. So it just seemed like the perfect match. And you know what? I've never looked back.
Nice. How much did you take a lot from your dad in the industry, or who did you learn the most from when you're sort of figuring out what you wanted to do in this role? So, funny enough, through university, I always worked as a banker, and when I still remember between my third and fourth year in university, turned to my dad one day and I said, you know, Dad, instead of me working for the bank this summer, why don't you let me come and work with you on the job site to learn the business? Because I always enjoyed it. And he was like, being a European dad, right? He's like, no, construction site is no place for a woman. Yeah. The men are always swearing and like foul language. I was like, Dad, it's nothing I haven't heard before. But, and to this day, my dad says to all his friends, the biggest mistake he ever made was saying that to me. He's like, I wish one of my buddies would have just smacked me across the head and said, knock some sense into me, because I ended up getting into the business on the sales side, and my sister ended up becoming an interior designer, right? So we both ended up ended up in the business. And as you know, Tanner, we always decorate. We decorate all our homes. We do renovations to all the homes we get ready to put on the market. We stage them. So indirectly, we're doing it, right? Yeah. Was there a lot of pushback from your dad in terms of him not necessarily agreeing with what you wanted to do? Because I think for a lot of kids, like, they're scared to sort of get out of those safe jobs to get those jobs that they actually want, and their parents might not think that way. So maybe you can go on that a little bit.
I think when I was younger, I think my dad, the whole idea was he wanted me, go to university. He had to work hard. He, as a carpenter, and work his way up. So he just thought that, you need a desk job, right, to be a
successful or professional,
right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's the perception of a lot of immigrant parents, right? So when I decided to change careers and I told him I was going into real estate, actually there, I got no pushback whatsoever. He's like, you know what, you'll be great at it.
Yep.
His thing was, you know, Anna, you can sell ice to an Eskimo, so go ahead, go
Nice.
for it.
It's a good mindset.
It's interesting you say that, because I feel like even nowadays, like maybe our parents are kind of similar, where it's like you need to go to university, you need to get this specific type of job, or have a degree to get that specific type of job. And now that like we're both working in sales, I feel like for me personally, like looking back on my degree is completely useless. Like I did sociology and psychology, and like what I want to get into is more sales based and dealing with people, and just that doesn't translate to the real world
You think it doesn't.
right now. Yeah.
But it will. Your sociology and psychology degree will absolutely help you in how to deal with people and different personalities. And I will tell you, in all the jobs I've always had, I always say that psychology degree was the best thing I could have done, because it does help you understand people and personalities and why people do what they do and how to deal with them, right? So indirectly, it will help you. Absolutely.
I was always intrigued with psychology because, as you said, like I like trying to figure out like human behavior, and like I haven't been in sales long, but I feel like there's a psychology of sales, and it's interesting to try and like maneuver, deal with different people on every call, and you have to cater to who they are or what their mannerisms are.
Absolutely.
Like, do you find that in the real estate industry as well?
1,000%. It's like you're everyone's personal therapist.
Yeah.
Yep.
You wear many hats, right?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Sarah, tell us how you came into this.
I never thought I was going to get into real estate, to be quite honest. Growing up, my mom was never around, so I always said, yeah, this is not for me. But I mean, I went to DAL, I studied international development studies, didn't really want to leave home to get a good paying job. So I thought about interior design as well. Did not want to go back to school for 4 more years. So
Fair enough.
I decided, hey, you know what? My mom's already established herself so well in the game. Maybe I'll join her, see how it goes. And I've been in it for a year now, and I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been tough. COVID's been crazy. The first year was the busiest year that she's ever had, and it was my first year, so
You were thrown into it, eh?
yeah, I was working 24/7. It was nonstop.
So everyone obviously has their own personality styles, and obviously you guys do too. How give me some goods and bads about working with your mom and working with your daughter. Put you on the spot a little bit.
Go ahead, Mom.
So I'm a workaholic.
Yeah.
Sarah's not so much. She works hard, but it's a different work ethic. Like, I love what I do. I can do real estate 24/7. I'll be honest. Like, it's just everything about it. Like, and I'm the type of person that I have to pick up the phone. Like, if I get an email, it's at 11 o'clock at night, I'm responding to it. I'm better now because, I'll be honest, I used to respond to emails like at 1, 2 in the morning. If I couldn't sleep, I'd see an email and I'd respond to it. 6 in the morning, I'd be responding. And then clients started noticing the hours. And so then they thought it was okay to call me at those hours and expect a response.
Yeah.
So I've been better about that. COVID's been rough, right? You know, when COVID hit, things went dead silent for a month, and we thought, that's it. Real estate's just going to tank. And the reverse happened. And so not being able to go anywhere and take time off, and then being 24/7, and it has been like 24/7, has been really hard, just because you're always on, right? There's no time off. And as much of a workaholic as I have been, I always made sure that every few months I would take, like, even if it was just 3-4 days, I would take 3-4 days off, go somewhere, because if you're away, you can still answer your phone, but it's a little bit different. At least you're away from it, that you can take a little bit of a break. And with COVID, not being able to travel for 2 years, that's where we really felt it. So,
did you find that it was tough to kind of separate like your family dynamic and your working dynamic?
Between the two of us?
Between the two of you, especially like living in the same household, where there are times where you're like, Fuck. Well, especially for you. Like,
Yeah.
fuck, I just want to be off the clock.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a little bit difficult to, talk to her as my boss, not my mom. I still give her a little bit of attitude here and there as an employee, but
Tanner can attest to that.
I think it makes it unique.
You know what? It's actually a really good comedy act, to be honest. If someone followed us around and just taped us for like a day, like it would be stand-up comedy,
You
because
need your own reality show.
honestly, the way the two of us communicate. So we're a lot alike.
But
Which
we're also very different.
we're also very different, but we're a lot alike, and so we butt heads a little bit, right? I've been doing this for 12 years, but Sarah wants to tell me all the time that I'm doing it wrong. Now I should be doing it right.
Come on, Sarah.
I mean, maybe a little.
What is one thing, Anna, that you, if you can go back and from the day you started, that you didn't think would be such a problem going into it? Like, what's one issue that was like, oh, I didn't expect this to be like such a big issue? Was it for me, I would guess it'd be like the size of the warehouse or like something like that.
So
What do you mean by the warehouse?
So
she's
we do
yeah,
all
go.
our own staging,
Okay.
right? So it originally did not start off that way.
Yeah.
So I think so to answer your first question, I think the biggest difference was, as most people make this mistake, they go into real estate thinking, oh, I can make my own hours and it'll be great because I can just punch out whenever I want and punch in whenever I want. No, I tell people, anyone who wants to get into the business, I say, yeah, it's your own hours, 7 to 11, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m.,
Your
sometimes
clients
even
make
later.
your hours.
Well, it's you eat what you kill, right? So if you're
Right.
not working
Yeah.
12 hours a day, then you're missing out on opportunities.
Absolutely.
Plus, people
Right.
work all day, right? So they're not really worried about real estate when they're doing their job.
Well, and
So they
with-
call you at like 7, 8, 9,
Well,
10
and if
p.m.,
you don't
right?
answer your phone, they'll just call the next agent.
Yeah.
And with COVID, it exasperated the issue because everyone's working from home. So no one's like in an office where they can't be on the phone because their boss is watching them, right? So then it became even more so that you needed to be on the clock all the time.
Yeah.
Now to the next thing about warehouse.
Yeah. I was a little confused there. I
Yeah,
was
my
like,
bad. Yeah, I should have explained that.
Originally when I got into the business, I tried to be a little bit different and always kind of keep on top of things, and I've tried to move along with the times. I didn't want to be one of those agents that was, just did everything always the same way. And I knew that when I got into the business that I had to stand out among all the other agents in my area. So one thing I started doing was, first I looked for I did my own photography for a little bit, but I knew it wasn't going to work. So first thing I did was look for a really good photographer. And I was paying top dollar for the photographer, but it didn't matter to me because I had a background in photography. I thought it was very important that people, there's so many homes on the market that you have like literally a minute to catch someone's attention to make them want to come and see the house. So that's why I thought photography and an actual video of the house was so important. So that was the first thing. The next thing was staging. So I kind of wanted my houses to look a certain way. I didn't want just, you see some properties where it's like there's nothing done. Like it's however people are living, they just take pictures with their phone and put them on MLS and that's it.
That doesn't look pretty. It doesn't catch someone's eye.
It's not going to catch someone.
No.
So I started staging. Originally I was using some of my own furniture, some of my parents' furniture. Like my mom would come home from vacation and her couch would be gone or her coffee table would be gone.
Yep.
Then we used to rent furniture, and then I wasn't happy with the quality of the furniture that we rented and what clients were paying for the furniture, how much they were paying, and the quality was just horrible. So I decided to start investing in furniture. And so I just started buying high-end furniture. Originally we were warehousing it in my garage. So I took over the garage until there was no room. We were busting at the seams, and then we rented a warehouse, and then that warehouse became too small. And then we moved to another one, which Tanner is referring to now. So I've got 7 units and we've got about 800 square feet.
Oh, wow.
And it's like up to the rim, like it's 10-foot ceilings and it's like everything stacked. So we always joke that it's like a jigsaw puzzle trying to,
Yeah.
you know, Sarah's jumping on furniture.
All over the furniture, climbing over stuff.
Trying to get to stuff.
See, something like that doesn't even come across my mind when I think about like real estate or being an agent. Like I would never assume that.
So that's a service we provide to our clients. We stage all our homes.
That's interesting. Also, you said like throughout you wanted to stand out and not kind of like set yourself apart. How have you been able to do that over the last few years, like the most recent, especially during COVID? Like, have you had to find different ways to work? Or
We've done a lot of off-market stuff because of all the connections that she's made throughout the years and has worked with so many different agents. They just connect with each other, you know, on a weekly basis if they have buyers that are looking for a specific property, or she has sellers that are going to be listing soon. Like we do a lot of off-market deals, and then also social media. When we post listings coming soon or stuff that's coming up on the market that we've just listed, we've had people reach out to us on Instagram who aren't represented, and they come see the property and sometimes end up purchasing it.
Nice.
Yeah.
If you could give like a percentage of how much your sales have increased because of social media, what would you say, like based on before?
You can touch on that.
Last year since COVID, so I started pushing the social media probably about 5 years ago when I rebranded. So the other thing is I spent a lot of money on a website. I didn't do a generic website. So originally about 8 years ago, I branded myself. I had a custom website done. And then about 5-6 years ago, I decided to really push the social media. I kind of saw that was the wave that we were going towards. And so I started really, even though I didn't like it at the time, because it requires a lot of work, right? And when you're so busy with your clients, like to make the time for the social media, it's hard, right? So rebranded and really pushed the social media. I would say last year we doubled our business from the year before.
Wow.
And that was a combination of the push on social media, also all the other advertising we do, and the rebranding, and also COVID, right?
So it'd be like pretty much impossible to be a top agent if you didn't have social media at all, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah, I look at all of my colleagues that are high up there in sales. They all have a very big social media presence.
Yeah. How important is it just of establishing like your reputation and your brand in general? Like, would you say that's been the most important thing for you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, you know, it's not just important to have a good reputation with clients, buyers and sellers, also among realtors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Sarah can talk about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's one of the, I think, seeing my mom work in real estate for 12 years, I mean, I kind of knew what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I wasn't really expecting was how nasty and unethical some agents can be, or some realtors, sorry. So, yeah, that we saw that a lot during COVID, just because I think there was so much going on in the market and
so much competition.
It's just so cutthroat.
So
a lot of people jumping into it, right?
Yeah.
But in the same breath, I'll say that there are a lot of really good realtors out there also. I think just consumers have to really do their homework and really look at, you know, what this agent has to offer and what are they going to do for me, and are they going to do the best job possible. The biggest mistake I will say that consumers make is picking an agent based on what are they going to charge me commission-wise and what's the list price they're telling me to list for.
Yeah.
Those are the least important things, because if you do hire a professional agent who's going to do the social media, the website, you're going to get you maximum exposure. Whatever you think that you might be saving or paying extra because they're not reducing their commission, they will more than make up for in the sale price. And time again, we've proven that to our clients, right?
Yeah.
Is there like an approach for managing those emotions that people might have when something doesn't go their way that they thought it was going to go? Like
the therapist role of being an agent.
Is that your problem? Like, I don't know how to word the question per se, but
No, I know what I know what you're saying. You know what? I'm always very cautious about not over promising. So I'm not the type of agent that's gonna go into a listing presentation and just tell the person what they want to hear
Yeah.
in order to get the listing, right?
so you got to be direct, you got to be honest, and go from there.
So why don't you tell them about Steve and Sarah? And
I wasn't present.
Let's
for
hear
that
about
one.
Steve and Sarah.
so Steve and
I wasn't present for that one.
Well, Steve and Sarah, well, but we dealt with them, right? But
Yeah.
you dealt with them as well. But Steve and Sarah had tried to sell their house 3 years ago, couldn't sell it. They really struggled. And so then they thought about selling again, but they were convinced their house was not sellable because this was now the third time they were going to try and sell it.
Oh, wow.
And so they called us in. I went to the listing presentation. They had already interviewed another agent. The other agent came in. I found out after the fact. I didn't know at the time. The other agent said, everything's fine. We can just put it on the market. It'll be ready to go. I walked in and I'm like, well, you need to do this. You need to do that. You need to change all the lighting. We need to paint. We need to move your furniture out. We need to renovate your basement washroom and your laundry room. This is just not acceptable. Yeah. And so even though it was like a shock to them.
It probably blew their mind.
Well, it was a shock to them, but in a way it wasn't. They said that they were kind of prepared because they did think that the house hadn't sold before. So clearly something was wrong, right? If they hadn't been able to sell it. So the fact that I was totally honest with them, and the big thing was that they didn't have time to do the stuff. So I said to them, I'm happy to be as hands-on as you want. I've got the tradespeople. We've got the team behind us that can come in and get the work done for you if you like. And, and before I even left, I was calling my painter and I was calling my tile guy to come, to come and look at the project and give them a quote, right? Mm-hmm. So that kind of shows you, how hands-on we can be. And I think a lot of clients appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool too that you have that background with your dad, that you kind of know those things. I'm sure most people don't really, even like a bunch of guys that worked there for a long time don't even know. That's when you walk in there and like, you need to fix this, you need to fix this, you need to fix this. I think that's pretty cool too. That
and then we blew them away with the sale price.
Yeah.
Like once it was all done,
yeah.
Like it was crazy how much we got for their house.
Would you have been able to do that coming into your real estate career though? Like, would you have been that blunt and that honest? No. So that just came with experience?
Yeah.
A learned skill.
Yeah.
Did it come just with the confidence of being like, okay, I know what I'm doing now? Or
Yeah, I think I think right from the beginning I tried to be as honest with people as possible, but I think I was a little bit more reserved and I was a little bit more hesitant to because when you're first starting, every listing is so important, right? Yeah. But I think once you become established and you have a reputation, then you can be a little bit more flexible. And, not every client is the right client for you, and and I'm not going to be the right agent we're not going to be the right realtor for everybody, right? I always tell people you have to feel comfortable, right? Mm-hmm. For most people, it's the biggest deal they'll ever make in their life. So you have to be able to trust that person is going to do the best possible job for you, right? And a lot of times it comes down to personality, right?
And I was just going to say that, like, do you build that trust through like empathy or just being understanding and being able to build a relationship?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of I don't think I know a lot of kids our age are stressed about being able to afford a house, and especially in Toronto, like it's pretty hard to do. I'm sure everyone's worried about it. So especially our listeners. So I was going to ask you, what sort of advice would you give them? Would you say save your money? Would you say invest your money? Like, how is that? What would you say?
Save your money. Mm-hmm. Don't rent. You're just throwing money down the drain.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
In layman's terms, for our degenerates out there, how fucked are we?
I think that's the thing, right? Like, we don't really learn about this growing up.
No, like
unless your parents teach it to you, or you took a course in university about, I don't know, business course. Like, I didn't even know very much. I started saving money in university. But yeah, no, we are fucked.
Can you elaborate?
I like that answer.
Yeah.
You're not.
No, we're not.
Okay, so I say I always say to people, I say to your generation, I was like, save as much as you can. As soon as you have enough money for a down payment on something, buy, get into the market. Even if you're home, you're home and you rent it out to help you make the payments. You know, back in 4 or 5 years ago, I probably would have said, you know, buy a house and rent out the basement, or live in the basement, rent out the main floor, which is, you know, what my parents did and my parents' generation did. Like, most of them, you know, had the income, the supplemental income to help them with their mortgage payments, right? And nowadays, with how expensive things are, you know, you kind of need that. So, you know, either stay home for as long as you can, if you can, right? Get a down payment. If your parents can help you with a down payment, I'll be honest, most of our clients that are buying that are younger, the parents are helping them with the down payment if they can, right? And they've been fortunate enough to have that. And just get yourself into the market so that you can start to build equity. You know, I've worked over the years with clients that, you know, like we have one set of clients that just bought, and they started working with us 3-4 years ago, looking. And, you know, we kept looking for the perfect place. And they lost out on a few places by 10,000, 20,000. Well, fast track 4 years later, you know, the house that they could have bought 4 years ago for 1.4 is now selling for 1.8. So had they bought, even if it wasn't the perfect house, had they bought that house 4 years ago, they now would be sitting on an extra $400,000 in equity. And so that's why I say, even if it's the smallest of places, right? Even if you have to make that sacrifice, do it, right? Get into the market, get your feet wet, so you can learn also about it, because it is a learning curve. And, you know, like Sarah said, most of you don't really have that experience. No. I mean, just like, honestly, when I bought my first house, I didn't have that experience. I mean, I had worked in banking, so I knew about mortgages. I was lucky in the fact that I knew about mortgages. I knew all of that. And I knew I had run a few businesses, so I kind of knew that. But most of my friends had no idea what they were doing, right? So, you know, we just helped one of Sarah's friends buy a place. She can tell you about that experience, right? And how we helped her.
Yeah, well, I mean, so her parents, my friend's parents, were my mom's clients. So she reached out to us, and I mean, they had no idea how to go about beginning to look for a place. They had just been looking on condos.ca or realtor.ca and checking out listings and seeing what they would sell for. And she couldn't believe how much stuff was selling for over the list price. And we had to explain to them, you know, in this market right now, agents aren't under listing, but they are listing a little bit below what market value is, just to get foot traffic and setting offer dates to get the price to bump up. But coming into this, they didn't know anything about how to go about purchasing a property. Didn't know what to do about going to get a mortgage, so we referred her to our mortgage broker. They wanted to know, you know, what can we get for whatever they were approved for, what areas should we be looking in, what's the price per square foot. So we sat down with them one night for about 3 hours, and we explained the whole process from start to finish on what they need, what they will need on offer date when we do put in an offer on a property, and also setting them up with the expectation that you might not get the first property that you like because the market is just so hot right now. But I ended up taking them to, 12 or 15 showings over the span of a week. And the one property they liked the most, we had set up 3 different properties that week that we were going to offer on in case they didn't get the first one or the second one, and then offer on a third one. They ended up getting the first one.
Right on.
Because we did the research. I knew what it was going to sell for per square foot based on what the market had increased at since the last sale, and we were able to get it done. And it also helped that my mom knew the listing agent, which is why I appreciate working with her.
Yeah, it's all about the connection,
Anna Santos is.
What would you say? Sorry, go on.
Okay, and when she says that, let me explain why she says
You have
that.
some big shoes to fill, Sarah.
Tell me about it. So there was 14 offers. There were 2 offers that were almost identical.
Yep.
we had a bigger deposit check because we had prepared our client to come in with a bigger deposit check. We had told them how important that was. We gave them exactly what they wanted, the closing date we wanted. And the fact that the agent, we had a firm offer, no conditions. And the fact that the agent did know me and knows my reputation and knows that if I have a buyer, they're going to be pre-qualified, and I'm going to have them ready to go, and there isn't going to be an issue about closing. That's why we got it.
So it's like the little things that no one else would think about that separates you from everybody else.
So when we met with with Daniela, we went over land transfer tax rebate. As first-time buyers, you guys have a land transfer tax rebate.
That was actually my next question. I was going to ask you guys to give me like 3 definitions, maybe land transfer tax, refinancing, and taking equity out of a house. Maybe start with that.
Okay.
And
you want to do the land transfer tax?
No, you can touch on that.
Okay. So land transfer tax. As a first-time buyer, so we have, in the city of Toronto, we have 2 taxes that we pay for land transfer. You pay the federal one, and then you pay the municipal one. Sorry, the provincial one, and then the municipal one. So in Toronto, we are fortunate enough that we have a double land transfer tax to pay. If you leave the city, then you only have to pay the one.
Figures.
Okay.
But the government has assisted first-time buyers, and you get a credit. So you can
A rebate
of 45 or 5,500.
No,
total.
I think it's 4,200.
42
or 4,400
total between the 2 in the city of Toronto. So as a first-time buyer, whatever the land transfer tax is supposed to be, you reduce it by that amount. Okay, so that helps a little bit. Also, if you have RSPs, right? So this was in existence even when I bought my first house. If you happen to have RRSPs, you've invested in them, you can pull out your RRSPs up to $35,000. Okay, the first 2 years you don't have to pay anything back, and after 2 years, the first 2 years, you have 15 years to pay back into that amount that you withdrew back into your RRSP without penalties. So that's a big help. So when I bought my first house, I had RRSPs. I pulled them out, and then I paid them all back slowly. So like for me, it ended up being like $770 a year that I had to put back into my RRSPs.
Okay.
Right. So that's a big help if you've been contributing to RRSPs.
Yeah.
Not a lot of adults your age have been contributing to RSPs, but if you work for a company that is doing contributions for you on your behalf, or you're doing them as well, you can pull them out.
Yeah.
Okay. And then financing, right? So with financing, we have a mortgage broker that we deal with who's really good, and he's got an amazing team. And we can call him, and within 24 hours, Dominic
sometimes less than 24 hours
can
he'll
get
have you
a client pre-approved, right?
Yeah.
And that's important to know what the pre-approval is, because once you're pre-approved, then we know what you can afford.
Yeah.
The one mistake people make is they think that because they're pre-approved for that amount, they can offer whatever they want on a place up to that amount, and they will get the financing. Not
Wrong.
the case.
You want to make sure that your appraisal comes in at your purchase price, or else you're screwed.
Okay.
So that's why it's really important to work with a realtor who is not going to let you get overly emotional, and make sure that keeps you in check and doesn't allow you to overpay for a property, because unless you have a huge deposit that you're putting down, if you're maxing your financing, you need that appraisal to come in right at purchase price.
Okay.
If you buy a house, if you offer $1 million on a property and that appraisal only comes in at $800,000, your bank is only going to finance you on 80% up to $800,000, which means you have to come up with the difference between the 800 and $1 million. And a lot of agents don't explain that to clients.
Yeah.
Okay. And then that's when you get into situations. You probably wouldn't know this, but in 2016, the market had a bit of a crash, right? when the Liberal government decided to implement the foreign tax and the market just tanked from one day to the next when Kathleen Wynne made that announcement, right? Like there was a correction of about, I'd say probably about 25% overnight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So a lot of people had bought in April before that announcement, but didn't close until May or June. Well, guess what happened with their appraisal? So they were pre-qualified, but once the appraisers came in literally 2 weeks before closing or a week before closing, their appraisal came in substantially lower than what they had bought it for. And now we were stuck. They were stuck.
Especially with kids around our age too, right? Because if we only have, let's say, $200,000, we don't have that difference saved on the back end when we need it.
No.
Yeah. So that'd be good to know for sure.
Yeah. I had no idea that even existed.
Yeah. Okay, we want to go into a little more of a fun topic. Like, I want to hear some cool stories about some things that you've done. Or you go, yeah. I
was going to talk about, you were talking about keeping your clients' emotions in check. Have you ever seen a client just fucking lose their mind? Like
start crying.
Start crying or
swearing.
Go insane or what's the craziest thing you've seen, Anna? You. Or heard about, maybe not seen firsthand, but what's the craziest story?
I always say that I can probably write a book with real estate stories of things that have happened and that I've encountered. Oh gosh, now you really put me on the spot. Let's talk about you, Tanner. Your mom.
Fuck.
Okay, I'm going to talk about Amanda.
There we go.
Oh no.
Here we go.
No, it's actually a really funny story. It's a cute
you didn't
story.
Expect that one.
Come on, I'd love to hear it.
I just thought of, I sold your parents' place, right, on Lincoln Woods, and then we were looking for a house, right? And the house that you guys are currently in, your mom walked into it, and it was, for your family situation, it was the perfect house. I get that. But there were things about the house that I thought, as a realtor, I had to point out to Amanda that could potentially be an issue down the road, right? And so, I'm always very careful. I always point out the good, the bad, and the ugly, right, to my clients, because, at the end of the day, you make the final decision. But I wouldn't be doing my job if I wasn't, totally honest, right? Mm-hmm. And so I pointed out a few things to Amanda, right? And I pointed out a couple of times. And finally, your mom turned to me. She's like, Anna, stop it. I want this house. Stop saying things to Tim. I want this house. I am buying this house. So make sure it happens. Yeah. Okay. I did my job.
Yeah.
That's fine.
That's why it's cool to sell your friend's house, right? Because it's like you can have those conversations. Like some random person wouldn't be like, don't tell my husband.
Right? So
just shut up.
Let me have this one. That's a cool story though. How about
like? I don't know that story.
I did not know that.
I didn't know.
I can see it happening though.
But I think you can attest. It's been a great house for you guys, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But there were a couple of things that that I was concerned about, right? Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be doing my job, right?
Well, I appreciate it.
You covered your ass. So.
Yeah.
All right, let's do some cool stories. What do you got?
Okay, so I sold a house once to a professional athlete.
Can you name names or no?
Yeah, I can. Corey Joseph. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You want to tell the story?
For those
Sarah?
who don't know who that is, that's a former
you can
Raptor.
Tell it because it's quite embarrassing.
Former Toronto Raptor.
Yeah, former Toronto Raptor.
I don't get easily
fangirly.
Yeah.
You probably didn't know who. Did you know
Not
who
really.
it was?
She did.
I knew he was a Raptor.
Yeah.
But I'm not. Like, I don't easily get, ooh, oh my gosh, like it's a Raptor, right?
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't follow basketball, so.
I do, but like, it didn't matter. Like, even if it was like Michael Bublé, right? Like, they wanted to buy like a house, called me. Like, I don't, like, I always joke.
You keep your cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty cool. And like, I'll have like, I've had clients that are like, head of like surgery at, at a hospital, and like, they're, like high position jobs. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't even find out until like right at the end, right? Like I kind of believe that everyone deserves to be treated with
equally,
the same respect, right? So it's irrelevant to me if you're like a garbage collector or if you're head of surgery in a hospital, right? Like, I'm going to treat you with the same amount of respect, and I'm going to do the best possible job for you I possibly can. So when I met Corey Joseph, I was, they called me, asked me to take him out. I booked a bunch of appointments to take them to see a bunch of houses. We saw, I think, about 15 houses in one day because he was in town for that day, didn't have a lot of time. So early in the morning till late at night, took them to see. I kept calling him by the wrong name all day long. It was either Corby or Colby or Colby or Corey, and everything but Corey.
Did he correct you?
No.
No.
Oh, wow.
And only at the end of the day did I finally realize I'd been calling him by the wrong name all day long.
I'm sure he loved that.
Yeah, I was a little embarrassed. I was a little bit
I'm sure everyone
embarrassed
like
about.
kisses his ass all day too, though. So you probably thought it was like refreshing that someone finally just like didn't care.
Put him in his place.
Put him in his place. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you, this might have been a rumor, but did you deal with Danny Green?
I did, yes. He, Danny Green, rented one of my clients' homes for a year. A year or two, actually.
2 years.
He had a bunch of snakes, right?
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
what?
saw those snakes. I saw
What
his
is up
ring
with that?
too.
Oh, that's a nice ring.
Pretty nice, huh?
Yeah.
How about was there a LeBron James story in there?
There
Please
is.
don't tell. I'm a
There is
diehard LeBron fan.
I didn't meet LeBron James, but we did rent out. I had this really cool house for sale, a Ravine property, and it was like super modern. And I got a phone call from his agent, which
Rich
is how
Paul?
I ended up getting Corey as a client, because it was the same agent. And they were looking for a house to rent for
Caravana.
for Caravana. Yeah.
I know LeBron's a big Caravana fan.
So they rented out the house. They hosted a massive party. They had security guards, and everyone was there. Like, everyone.
I would have fanboyed.
You should have said, sure, but I need to take it to
I would
this
have
party.
fanboyed with LeBron.
Yeah. So
That's
yes,
one
we
guy.
rented the house to him for the weekend.
That's
Cool.
pretty cool.
LeBron.
He should have invited you to the party.
Yeah, +1.
Yeah, I didn't ask.
I'm sure.
I'll waive the commission if you
I'm
let me go to
sure
your
if
party.
I had asked, I didn't ask.
Can you imagine that party? Oh my God.
Maybe one day we'll get to one of those. One day. What's one city that you want to buy a house in, Sarah? In the entire world?
Portugal? Or that's not a city, but
Yeah, I guess, Portugal, but now she has a place there, so I'll just take that.
Other than Portugal.
Portugal.
Maybe Italy, like on the Amalfi.
That'd be
And you,
pretty
Anna?
nice.
Yeah.
No, I rather just visit places, like different
Yeah.
places all the time. Like Sarah said, we now have a place. My parents have a beautiful home in Portugal. We're like half an hour north of Lisbon on the coast, but I just bought a condo right on the beach. So, we love going there because we have so much family there. We have so much extended family there. But I've never been one of those people that wants to own in Florida or wants to, I like visiting different places all the time. So that's why I've never really had a desire to buy.
It's kind of nice to
anywhere
have a
else.
place in Portugal, because then you have like a home base in Europe, and then you can just kind
Go
of go
place to place.
Place to place.
I want to go to Portugal so badly.
We're going.
Whenever
should
you
film.
want.
When can we come?
You guys
We
are
should film a
welcome.
podcast
This
there
summer, yeah.
on the beach. Yeah.
Portugal.
Sounds good.
I have one more question I was interested in. If one person emailed you and said, "Can you find me a house?" Who would be the best person, or your most favorite person that you'd want to do that? Like, if you saw this email from like LeBron James, I'd freak out and be like, I don't know what to do.
Who would you fangirl over?
Yeah.
Who would be the one person?
Jake Evans from the Montreal
Oh,
Canadiens.
Fuck.
Good answer. Another
If
good
I got an
answer.
email from him, I'd block it. I'd go, fuck no.
Not happening.
I had to say that. So I have to say something. I've known all of you since you guys were super young and teenagers, and I am so impressed at how you guys have all turned out. Seriously, right? Like, you guys are so mature, and you've all
At times.
and you're figuring
we
out
wanna
your
be.
stuff. You're figuring out your lives, and I think you guys should be very proud of what you guys have accomplished so far.
I appreciate that. We all look up to you too, so.
You've got a long way to go, though.
But I mean, all joking aside, Jake Evans, yes, you better call us if you ever want to buy a place in Toronto.
Jake was talking about getting a place. I think it was this upcoming summer, and I was like, please just let me rent it. Like, let me live there while you're away.
Like all a basement.
I'll just tell people, I'll be like, hey, you want to come back to an NHLers? Like, and
go to pick up line.
Just be me.
I think if I mean, I don't know that I'd be like goo crazy, but Michael, like I always think about Canadians because like who's a Canadian that would likely buy kind of in Toronto. I love Michael Bublé and I love his music, so Michael Bublé would be one Canadian.
That'd be pretty cool.
Ryan Gosling.
Or Ryan Reynolds, one of the two.
Reynolds.
I would fangirl over Chris Martin from Coldplay if he
Oh, yeah.
sent me an email. I'd be like,
So the tattoos get you, eh?
Who would be yours? Guy or girl?
Guy or girl? Ooh. Someone with like cool taste, like a different kind of taste that would kind of like make me find a cool house for them.
Who would that be?
yeah.
Who has cool taste?
I don't know. It's a tough question. Maybe like Drake. He's got some cool style.
Have you seen his house? Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's insane.
What's it called? The Embassy?
I don't even know.
I don't even.
Yeah.
What's that street called again? The Mile or whatever it's called? The Row or
Do you know?
Bridal Path.
Bridal
Yeah.
Path, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks,
The
Dean.
bridal path.
Thank you, Dean.
Yeah.
But I say Michael Bublé just because he has such a huge sense of humor. Also, like I've seen him. I'm a big Stephen Colbert fan, right? So I've seen him. Like he's just so comical, right? And
She's fangirling right now.
yeah, I
We should bring
love
Bublé on the pod.
humor. For me is a big thing.
Yeah. While you're emailing at 1 a.m., you're watching Colbert.
Yep.
Do you have Michael Bublé playing throughout the holidays?
Yeah, I always
Is
play
it-
Michael
yeah.
Bublé.
I'm sure Luke loves that.
Michael Bublé.
Luke does love it.
Yeah. I love Christmas music too, so perfect. All right, guys. Are we good?
I
more questions?
actually have a few questions from our Instagram followers.
Hey, there we go.
What are the best up-and-coming areas in Ontario, in your opinion?
Oh my gosh, Ontario.
Because isn't real estate insane everywhere now? Like
Yeah.
Barrie, I know
Everywhere.
Innisfil, Barrie, like
There's
it's
a
over
lot
million.
going on in Innisfil and Angus. Barrie too, obviously.
Hamilton.
Hamilton.
Hamilton is busting through the seams. It's like incredible. I have a client who is a developer. He's telling me that he's launching a few condominiums in Hamilton. They are selling for $900 a square foot in Hamilton.
The Hammer.
It's not. That is
not a pretty place, in my
crazy.
No, it's
What was that per square footage 2 years ago?
I don't know. 500.
Holy
Almost
fuck.
double, eh?
It's
Jeez.
it's so that is the one thing that COVID has created, right? Is people
They're leaving Toronto,
leaving,
right?
people starting to leave the city, right?
Yeah.
I think people made a lot of people might regret the decision they made, because I think a lot of people jumped the gun, and when everything shut down and everyone started working remotely, they thought, oh, I'm never going to go back to the office. I'm just going to leave the city and I'm just going to buy, a bigger home and leave the city. And so they've done that. But, as things start to open up, you're going to see people are going to have to start like
Going into the-
some companies
Yeah.
are going to start forcing you to come back to work, right?
At
Yeah.
least a couple days a week.
Right.
Well, we just started. My company just implemented like mandatory once a week.
Right.
That commute's going to be a nightmare
For
I
those
know.
people.
for those people,
I
right?
know.
And
Do you think some people will be lenient though?
I think it depends on the job, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it depends on what job. I think a lot of companies are looking at maybe being flexible where you only need to come in maybe 2 or 3 days a week rather than 5 days a week. I mean, for the longest time, we've been talking about creating just a 4-day work week and having a 3-day weekend. And I think COVID kind of helped
Yeah.
create that,
Yeah.
right? I do think that a lot of employers that were concerned about having their employees work from home because they wouldn't be productive, have realized that that's not the case, right? That people can be as productive at home. And I say that because, before, if you're in the office every day, you need to take your child's sick, can't go to work. you're staying home for the day. You're not working, right? Well, now, if you're working remotely, your child can be home sick. You're still working. You might have to take an hour off to take them to the doctor, but guess what? You can work the rest of the day, and most people will make up that hour by, putting in a couple of hours in the evening.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
But I will say that that's also created another issue, which is
Separating the work
from
life.
home,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. So there's a lot of like what could happen. How do you sort of decide, like when you're making decisions that this is the way I think it's going to go, I'm going to stick with this and then go with that? You know what I mean? Since things might change from every 2 years kind of thing, it's hard to pick.
Do you have to be dynamic? Like it's the industry in general changes pretty often, right?
It's always changing. So you have to be flexible, right? And you have to keep an eye on things and just keep on top of it, right?
Yeah.
And all you can do is give best possible advice. But, with regards to the whole work and COVID thing, right? I think, with those people that have left the city, right? I think you might start to see people coming, once they have to come into work, you might see them trying to come back
Yeah.
in, right?
Yeah.
Well, that was one of the things I loved about just being able to work from home was I went away for the summer and worked in Vancouver. And I loved it out there. I still worked Eastern hours, but I'd finish my day at like 2 and then go to the beach. And I found I was more productive at times because just mentally I felt better. I felt happier.
Yeah. Was COVID a good or bad thing for like Airbnbs? 'Cause I feel like people want to get out.
I was able to, I got our Airbnb for 57% off.
Yeah.
Because no one was renting.
Obviously, when it was locked down, you couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
But when things were open, when people started to be, okay, I'm going to go take a vacation, then it started to pick up again. And now we're back to kind of normal. But cool.
I have one more question. Just so I know, like, we know a ton of people too right here who are getting into real estate as like, and I see like a lot of other of our friends are getting into real estate. What would you give as like your biggest piece of advice, and what are some characteristics that you feel are important in succeeding in real estate?
Breathing. Not letting the little stuff get to you. I mean, real estate, it's so back and forth. Every day is different, and just being able to roll with the punches, and not get like I have bad anxiety sometimes when things don't go a certain way and I planned my day out a specific way and shit just hits the fan. You just have to be able to like deal with that and not let that get to you. One thing I didn't expect was to be on call 24/7. I mean, I knew that that's how my mom worked, but you really have to.
You got to keep up with the big dogs.
Yeah, you do. Unfortunately.
For just your mental health, like how do you find when you're not feeling 100%, or there's some days when you're feeling off, it impacts your work?
100%.
Do you find the same thing, Anna? Like if you were going into like a client call, like feeling not as, or a client meeting, like feeling not as confident or just not yourself, like how would you say you deal with that?
So I'm pretty good about separating. I've been able over the years, and I think that comes just with age and maturity, right? You learn to kind of separate the two.
It's like you callous your mind sort of thing.
Yeah, so you can compartmentalize, right? So, okay, I'm having a crappy day, but, whatever personal issues might be happening, I'm going into a listing presentation, game face on, leave it all behind, and let's go in and get it done.
It's like a trigger in the back of your mind.
I'm just learning that
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So there have been a couple of instances where I'm having like full-on breakdowns calling Anna, hey, Mom, I'm really having a hard time here. Can you deal with this? Because I'm stressing.
Yeah. That's why it's good to have your mom, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure if you're a different boss, they might be like, well, figure it out.
Well, I think it's just any job you learn as you go.
Yeah.
And you're able to deal with those things as you have more experience.
But I also think just anyone getting into the business, just make sure that you do take time for yourself as well. Like,
go on those vacations.
It's good to work. It's good to be there on call for your clients and make sure that you're tending to them and doing everything you possibly can for them. But you do have to put yourself first too sometimes.
It's good advice.
I'm not good about saying no to clients.
Yeah.
I am not. No, I'm not. Because I'm a big person pleaser.
Yeah.
People pleaser. And I,
Same.
yeah, and but I get satisfaction out of just seeing how happy the client is at the end of it, and just to see, the end process, right? So I really enjoy that. So I get a big kick out of that, right? With regards to getting into the business, the advice I would give to anyone that's thinking about getting into real estate, it isn't the type of job where it's going to be a 9 to 5. You have to be prepared for that mentally. You also have to be prepared for the fact that your schedule, the way you think your day is going to turn out, is never,
most of the time,
it never does. The stuff always gets thrown at you, and you have to be able to adapt. Okay. You're not going to be busy from day one. It is an evolution, and it does take time, and you just need to be patient, and you just need to keep working at it, right? It's one of those things that it does take a while. It takes generally about 3 years for someone to really kickstart their real estate business, right? So you just have to really keep on it and just work hard at it.
So would you say grit is something you need?
Yeah. Perseverance, just not being willing to give up. Now, Sarah also has, Sarah's had the concussion issue just like, you did. So, and that's been an issue over the years for her. And so anxiety and, stress will affect.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely affects me, but I think real estate's good too because you're not sitting at a desk all day staring at a screen.
Just fucking losing your mind doing the same thing for 8 hours.
Every day is different. Even though I have anxiety, even though I get stressed out really easily, every day is different. So
you're still enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm still enjoying it. I'm learning how to cope with it. Nice.
And then I have another question for you. Just as someone who's been in the industry for a while, and obviously you know what you're doing and you're succeeding, do you ever get a little nervous seeing how many inexperienced brokers are coming into the industry and whether that'll impact it in a negative way? Because again, like I look online and I see like fucking everyone is a real estate agent or wants to be a real estate agent nowadays, and I mean,
like, what can they mess up for you? You know what I mean? Like
not
throwing
just
off the
messing
prices
up,
of
but
the area or stuff like that.
Just overall, like, I think you were the top. I saw a stat. There's like 66,000 brokers in Toronto. Like, just having that many people, like, it's bound to kind of.
Well, those numbers aren't also 100% accurate because a lot of people have a license active, but they actually don't even use them. They keep them. A lot of people got their license so that they could sell their own homes, but she's sold homes for agents.
Oh wow!
Before,
but is there just a fear that having that many inexperienced people might attract like the wrong type of person into the industry? There's
plenty of wrong people in our business. A lot of people have jumped into the business because they think it's an easy gig, right? They look at, you sell a house for $1 million. Every house now, the average price of a house is $1 million, and they think, 2.5% on the buy, it's like, first of all, if you're doing your job properly, you're spending money.
Yeah.
So then you also have to pay your brokerage. So whatever, translate, it doesn't translate to that same amount. Then you got to pay taxes. Right. So I think there's like a misconception of how much exactly and how easy it is going to be.
Well, in $1 million listings, Los Angeles and New York don't really help the matter.
Like all those TV shows.
Yes.
What's the one with the two little
brothers?
Yeah, the Manlet brothers.
Altman brothers.
Selling Sunsets. Yeah, that's a good one.
That one.
That one.
Selling Sunset. Yeah.
When's a Selling
I
Sunset
love watching
Toronto
all those
comes? Yeah,
shows.
it's entertaining.
It's entertaining.
No, I love them.
They just have a full brokerage of like former models.
Yeah, basically.
You need your own show.
But it's not really reality.
No.
Right? It's not what it's not that it's not all that glamorous, right? There's a lot of hard work that goes into it. But I would just say, yes, there's a lot of agents out there that don't really know what they're doing, are not completely on board. And I mean, listen, I've sat across from agents where they're bringing me an offer and I'm correcting their offer and filling in things that they've missed, right? Because they haven't done it properly. Or, you know, telling agents like, you missed this, you missed that, you missed this, you have to do that, right? Yeah. But I'm the type of agent that I always say, I'm happy to help, right? You know, I just met one agent this past weekend who, you know, has her license because her husband's a developer. So she got the license so that this way, whenever he wants to buy or sell, right, you know, she does the deal for them. But, you know, but there was a lot of stuff that she wasn't aware she had to do. And so I'm like, you know, telling her, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do that. And she's very thankful, right? And I don't have a problem with that as long as people are willing to learn. But there are those people that just don't want to learn. They just want to do it their way and, like, you know, just don't
Make
care.
a quick buck.
They just think it's going to be a super lucrative career, but
Yeah.
I mean, it is if you're
It
top
is
of,
if you.
it's like any job if you put in the effort.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
It's like it's a business, right? It's at the end of the day, it is a business, and we are running a business, right? We are helping people, but it is a business, and you have to run it like a business. And I think that that's where people go wrong. Other realtors go wrong. They don't run it like a business. It's like, oh, you know, it's fly by night. Like, let me get a deal done here and move on to the next one, the next one, the next one. And they're not looking out for their clients and their best interest, and they're not running it like a proper business.
Yeah. And that affects you in some way too, right? If someone just wants a quick sale and they overprice a house on the street that you're selling a house on, that'll like mess up the comparables, all that sort of thing, right? So there's nothing you can really do there, right? You're just kind of stuck dealing with that yourself, yeah.
Yeah.
Where can we find you guys online, and where can our 27 subscribers, hopefully more after this, find you online? What's your Instagram and what's your website?
So our website is asantos.ca.
Yeah. My Instagram is sarabranco.homes.
And mine is Anna Santos Homes.
We can link them in the YouTube description as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you very much for coming on. We appreciate it. Again, as I said, that was definitely our most informative episode.
I learned something.
Yes,
so
I definitely did.
Hope everybody else learned something too out there.
So thank you. And to our listeners out there, I hope you enjoy it and can learn something as well. And remember, there are always good times ahead.